back, people. We are back. Your favorite. I'm never lying when I say this. Your favorite sports podcast, roaming the airwaves, rolling with Ramos, is back. I happen to be the one that holds the last name Ramos as always. I would like to specifically thank my daddy for that one, Mike Ramos in heaven. Not only did I lose you as 24, you just gained a 24. I hope you got a chance to meet him. I love you and I miss you. Episode 90. 10 more. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm glad I got through that because I thought I wouldn't. 10 more episodes to 90, America. Wow. But to 100, excuse me. And we didn't want to have 90 this way. I had a whole show planned for 90. Eli Manning retiring. The Super Bowl. Anything else? LeBron passing. Kobe. We had so much to talk about. And Sunday, we got the wildest news that we never thought that we would hear. And typically everybody, I'll be honest, I have this nice little notebook here, rolling with Ramos. This is my father. I made it myself. The only way to create is with him on the cover, as you all have seen him as our logo. As you open it, I have note after note after note as I prepare the show every week. This week, as we do it, I wrote nothing. It is an empty page here. And it is an empty page because there was nothing to write and to prepare. To have a conversation as such and to do this correctly in the right way. You pray on this, you think about it, and you say, this is a conversation that you have from the heart, with no direction, and you just have it in the sense that you have it. And we have to have this without anything preempted, without anything planned, because this was not planned. Last week, America, we paid homage to a man known as Iron Mike, one of the best coaches in the NFL. He was also one of the best players in the NFL. And we did so honoring him, but his name ain't Tyson. Last week, episode 89, the Mike Ditka edition. This week, we pay homage to a man that we have just lost and is gone too soon, and we, at this point, cannot believe it. Rolling with Ramos, and this is the only way we could do this week. Rolling with Ramos, episode 90. The Kobe Bryant edition. And not to be undone, not to be left behind, one of the things we shared initially when we became friends was our love for this guy, which I bought this a long time in Times Square, and this was the only momentum that I took. This jersey, you do not see it, but it is a dress on me. It was an extra large. I was in high school, and it was the only white one they had. It was the only one left in the store. Of course, I bought it. It's been a long week, Tristan. We're going to get into it. But welcome back, baby.
Welcome back to you, too. This has been a hard couple days. I came home from an amazing trip, an amazing weekend.
Yeah.
With lots of laughter, lots of fun. And literally maybe a couple hours after landing back in Maryland, I hear about this tragedy.
Yeah.
And so this is one episode I wish we would never have to do.
And it's funny because my first hardest episode was the first episode after my father passed away. This is the second hardest one I've had. And, when we're going to talk about this, first of all, social media, we all know. I don't think I have to tell you the facts. Because with social media and the news is done, you all know them. We do not need to regale the tale. Kobe Bryant, 41, killed in a helicopter crash. We do not have to regale that tale. The only new tale that hardened me today was that the fog and weather conditions weren't in the best of ways to fly in LA. Even the LAPD told their people that fly in airplanes, they grounded their planes. And to think that this tragedy could have been avoided just by somebody speaking up and saying, do not fly in these conditions, is so hard. Let's start somewhere.
Okay.
When you saw the news, how did it hit you? And where did you first hear it? Take us into the account of where you are and what you were doing when you first heard the news that Kobe Bryant had passed away.
So I had literally had gotten home from the airport, and I'm, just decompressing and, just getting myself together. And I was laying down, and I saw a tweet from Trey Wingo. We follow a lot of these ESPN analysts, or
Of course.
And so when I saw the tweet, I said, "Oh, something must have happened." And then I get on, and I'm seeing, Kobe's face, and I really didn't even look at the headline. I just saw his face. I'm like, oh, people probably talking about, LeBron passing Kobe on the all-time scoring list. And as I kept scrolling, I saw, Kobe Bryant dead, Kobe Bryant killed. And I'm like, hey, what are they talking about? And
the regular celebrity hoax dead.
I really thought it was just a hoax. I saw it was like TMZ had first reported it, so I wasn't even really taking it deep. I wasn't taking it seriously. And then I kept seeing it over and over. And then my dad calls me to the kitchen. He said, man, look at the TV. And there's the headline on CNN. And I was shocked. It was like a bad dream. I remember pinching myself, like thinking, like, man, I gotta be, I gotta wake up or something. Like, this is not correct. And we're watching him. Me and my dad are watching this thing. And every time, I promise you, the entire day, and even yesterday, every time they kept saying Kobe Bryant killed in a helicopter accident, it was like I was hearing it for the first time every single time. Anyone that knows me, I famously say it all the time. I don't idolize celebrities or athletes. I don't have, people like that, because I always just felt that I admire them for what they did, and I always try to figure out what can I do to accomplish the same things that they did, that I can achieve that level. So I never idolized anybody, but if I had to pick one, it was Kobe Bryant. And not only because of the basketball prowess, but because of the mind that he has. The way he went about his work, the way he thought about the world. He truly understood how to maximize his own potential. And I admire that. And even getting older, I admired it even more because, we speak about the Mamba mentality and all that. You can, it's a transformable thought that can go across any occupation. You don't have to be a world-class athlete. You don't have to be a celebrity or an entertainer. You literally can have a regular 9-to-5 job, but you can approach it with the same thought, and he made you understand that you could do that. I, I just felt so numb to it, and it was just like it was like we got robbed of a mind and of a person that we were about to see something else. And then what made it more gut wrenching was, I think it was like an hour and a half later, we found out that Gianna was on the heli. It was just
boom, boom, boom.
It was just a really bad
dream
that unfortunately is our reality. And like, and you and I talked on the phone, and I think it still doesn't really sink.
Yeah. I would like to thank first of all, if you're tuned into Rolling with Ramos episode 90, the Kobe Bean Bryant edition. You're damn right we did it. Of course we did it. Please drop your comments down below. Talk to us. Join the conversation of remembering one of the greatest to ever play it. One of the best men in this world. When I heard about Kobe, somebody texted me and reached out to me and said, "Did you hear about Kobe?" And I said, "What?" And I looked on Instagram, and I couldn't believe the TMZ report at first. It took me until CNN to do it. This has hit me on many levels because I am still in shock that I'm falling asleep for the last 2 days and waking up, and Kobe is not here. LeBron just passed them. He eloquently passed the torch. This loss has hit me in ways that, and I feel like I could be honest about this with you all. This has hit me in ways that I'm already experiencing loss. You all know that my father passed away December of 2018. And it's been very difficult for me. My analytic endeavors as a little girl were defending Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant had me out here yelling and screaming like Michael Irvin and Steven and what was it? like Michael Irvin sweating and going at it.
Stephen A, yeah.
I always had his back. I understood that people wouldn't appreciate Kobe until he retired. Basketball wise, and we wouldn't. Mamba mentality was Mamba mentality before he coined it. Kobe was the only one to be able to give himself his own nickname, and we say, you know what, that fits you. To be able to tell the most prolific player, the most dominant player in the NBA, I get who you are, but you still need me. If I can be honest with you guys, when I heard about Gigi, it hurt me even worse because one of the things that it's been hurtful for me to do in this time of having to speak about Kobe, and everybody wants me to hear what I have to say, and the one person that I can't analyze this with is my father. I would love to hear his vantage point and where he's coming from. So bad, I would love to hear his voice. And, in this world, and I feel like I could do this with you guys. In this world, you are blessed to have a father in your life, whether you are a male or female. But when you're a little girl, you want to have your dad wrapped around your little finger. You want he wants to be the apple of your eye. I had a man in my life that I knew loved me more than he loved himself. And I am forever grateful of the relationship I was able to have with my father. When my father died and I found out that he went from number 25 to 24, and my favorite player went from 8 to 24, my life was full circle because there I was, my favorite player and my father were in the same. So like I said, when you have a relationship with your father, you're very blessed to be able to do that. But it's even greater
when you can have a relationship and you can share a bond through something both of you have passion for. And my father introduced sports to me through the simplest form by holding me as a baby in his arms as he watched the game. And I know he just thought that he was just doing a normal thing, holding his daughter or holding his child while he's doing something simple. But what happened was the passing of a guard that his passion became mine. And when it comes to Gigi and Kobe, I totally understand that. You know, Kobe Bryant, in trying to reinvent himself after retiring, he stopped watching basketball. Mm-hmm. He stopped watching it. He dissected himself from it to reinvent himself. And what his daughter gave him through a love of his or her passion for it was a reinvention of passion through a different way. Because now he didn't have to spend 20 years on the court. He could spend his time cultivating the new talent, her talent. He made her watch TNT and basketball again. They went to basketball games together. And I'm 31 years old, American, and it's one thing to lose your father. And I have great memories of my father, but what I won't have is a future with my father present in it. And that hurts me every day. To know that he will never hold my children. And he will never get a chance to meet the other man in my life that loves me. It's one thing to miss him on holidays and birthdays, but every new experience is without my father. It's hard when, even though them two will rest in eternal peace together, the remaining children that he has left, the other three, you have two kids that have memories of their father, but they will not have a future with him. You have people that, you have a daughter that just was born that will not be able to have any memories with her father. And that really sucks because I'm so blessed. So this tragedy, although we miss Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, when you look at pictures of him and Gigi and you evaluate that, it's so disheartening. I don't think it was a mistake that he had girls. And Gigi would say, when people would say, you should have had the son to continue the legacy, she said, here I am. And at 13, to be able to be so defiant and say that. This tragedy hits on a personal level and a basketball level. Let's talk about Kobe Bryant from a basketball perspective, Tristan. In a time where you had Ray Allen, Allen Iverson, Dirk Nowitzki, guys like that coming into the league, Kevin Garnett. You had guys like Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Kenyon Martin, Keith Van Horn. You had a plethora of talent over the years in this league. Kobe, within them, was able to make a name for himself even while playing for with the most dominant center to ever play the game. Those air balls and those in the bush and working through his career and what he stood for on the court of expecting a level of competition from everybody that matched his elite competition level himself. 5-time champion, Oscar winner, numerous all-star appearances. Not just offensive awards, but defensive awards. He played both sides of the court. How will the basketball world remember Kobe Bryant? And how will this generation of new players? Joel Embiid said
I watched the 2010 finals, and that what made me want to play basketball. This generation grew up to Kobe Bryant, not to be like Mike, but Kobe. And then let's be real. It was a love-hate relationship with Kobe. It's a thin line. You either love him or you hated him. And those who hated him, they heard our mouths. Because they just didn't understand. It takes a lot of guts to tell the most dominant player in the NBA, I get it, bro, but you're going to have to work for this ball like I get it. The most cynical thing he could have said after he won his fourth championship was, I did it without Shaq. But you thought he couldn't do it without Shaq. To lose in the finals against Boston. And if we know that vision of Kobe, he watched the confetti fly. We saw him go under the rope and watch it. To avenge that 2 years later. To have Mamba mentality before it was even Mamba mentality, to the point that Kobe was so misunderstood in his time in the league until the ending of his career. We all know the scandal with Shaq and everything that happened with that. Even though he was young, do we understand that now? How do we talk about his championships with Shaq and the dynasty that would have continued to build if only they could have understood what they had more in their time together? People said that in a world of living in LA, where you had Jack Nicholson sitting in the front row and every star that could walk in there, people came to see Kobe and wanted to talk to Kobe. And we haven't seen that in LA since now LeBron James dons a Laker uniform. Speak of the star in LA, speak of basketball, how prolific he was. Speak of how he will be missed from an X's and O's standpoint. And it's crazy because even Lamar Odom said, even though you heard it was a helicopter crash, you just knew Kobe would get through it and survive it. We've seen Kobe down, but we've seen him never down to the point that he couldn't get back up. Now we see him at a point of no return in the most defeated ever. But from a basketball standpoint, let's start there first, Tristan.
Kobe Bryant is a basketball genius, and I say is because when you have the career he had and the legacy that he has, those things never die.
No.
He's a basketball genius. I think people look at Michael Jordan as being perfect. I think Kobe was perfect as a player. He saw the floor in every angle that you could see it, from every position that was on the floor. Defensively, one of the best on-ball guards ever, and could score anywhere. I mean, we see guys now, we talk about walking bucket. I don't think it was appreciated enough, because we used to highlight Kevin Garnett's defensive prowess. We would highlight Allen Iverson's scoring ability. Even Chris Paul's floor general mentality. I don't think it was appreciated enough with Kobe because Kobe was good at all of it. He was great at all of it. He didn't specialize in one thing. He specialized in everything. And, to be someone to come out of high school as a guard.
Say you're going to be better, if not more than Mike.
Yeah, to challenge that thought process of being better than Michael Jordan. And to really be the closest thing, and I don't think it'll be anything else. I think there are two halves of one cloth, Michael Jordan and Kobe. I truly believe there are two halves of one cloth.
Who wanted nothing to do with the comparison.
Yeah, but I think that was like just a millennium, not even a generation, but just in a millennium type of player with the mentality that he had. I listened to Skip Bayless, Undisputed with Shannon, yesterday, and he said a phrase that was perfect describing Kobe Bryant. He said that he was the greatest talent and the greatest overachiever. And he said only Michael was like that. To be so God-given, to have a God-given ability like he had, and to still work and practice as if he was the worst in the room, as if he had to prove something. There's only certain people that are like that when we see in sports. I think of Jordan, I think of him, I think of Tiger Woods, I think of Tom Brady. They're just kind of wired that way where clearly they've done it, they've accomplished, and everyone acknowledges their greatness, but for them, it just wasn't enough and they weren't satisfied. His passion, his cold-blooded mentality, the tenacity, the intensity, the fervor, watching him play basketball was more than just enjoying the game. It made you want to attack life the way he attacked the court. It made you want to attack life the way the way he attacked the other opponent. My mentality was always, you can't outwork me, and that was because of Kobe Bryant. I just felt like you couldn't outwork me. You could be smarter, you could know more, you could have more credentials, but if you put you and I in one room and someone has to come out, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
You're not going to beat me.
I feel you, baby. It's only one Ramos. So, remember that.
So it's just like, as a basketball player, and I know we keep saying as a basketball player, describe him, but
because we have to describe him in two entities.
Yeah, but the two entities are
so condensed.
Yes, because he took everything in regards to basketball, and it was a life thing. I think we highlight basketball because that's what we got to see, but I think this was an everyday.
Do you think we missed the point in that point? Because let's be real. A lot of people had a lot of backlash for Kobe for the things how dare you talk about Shaq like that? And one of the best moments, and we always say this, one of the best moments of the All-Star break a couple years ago was that player spotlight with Shaq and Kobe.
Right.
To see them sit down and everything that we were saying, Shaq admitted, I used to come into camp fat.
Right.
I knew that after I come back, I knew that you were working hard, so I knew you was ready. So all I had to do was get ready. But the backlash he took for being so not against Shaq, but so against the ideology of only being the back man and only playing that second role and showing his prevalence in the league. How big was that at that time? What can we take from that?
I think what people didn't understand was it wasn't him trying to be disrespectful to Shaq. He understood who Shaq was. But in order to be great, there's a level of obsession. There's a level of selfishness. There's a level of arrogance that you have to really achieve greatness.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that he was just built different. I think he understood it at a young age that he was great and that he wanted to push himself to be great. And I think we missed it because we marveled at him as an athlete. But I think his everyday approach in life was like that. And what's so sad about it is that I think in this time in his retirement, we were watching it.
We were just getting used to him not being in the league anymore. We were getting used to the retirement.
But we were also watching the same fervor, intensity, tenacity. Yes. We were watching the same thing in a different way.
Yes.
I mean, the man won an Oscar in 2 years after. People. I mean, there are people that are in the business that have been waiting for years for an Oscar. He got it in without thinking. It was just his own drive and passion. And I think I remember having this conversation with my dad when he retired. And I said, you know what's crazy? I said, I can't wait till he stops playing because people are not going to appreciate him.
Until he's gone.
And I said, and I think we were on that path where you just heard it a little more, the warmth and the appreciation for who he was, and it's
Even the commercials that happened afterwards, that I've been hating you.
yeah.
And that was real. He
That
was
was
like,
real.
and he loved those people too. When he approached basketball, I read Six Rings by Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson, we know his mind. People say a lot about Phil Jackson, that he had a whole bunch of stars and this and that. It takes a lot to do what he did with those stars. For you to have Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman coexist correctly, the Zen master was the Zen. He was able to do Shaq and Kobe and get them. He spoke of Shaq and Kobe in regards to, he would tell Shaq to jump high. But he would also understand, and you would know with Shaq, that Shaq would question, can I jump that high?
Right.
Can I do it? Can I actually, despite how Shaq was.
Right.
Whereas Kobe, he would tell him to jump. If he told him to jump high, not only would he want to jump as high as you thought he can, he want to jump even higher. That's how much Kobe believed in himself. He talked about the changing of he was such a studier of his craft. He talked about, when you can talk about the changing of the nets and the changing of the knitting of them and how the ball goes through them.
That obsession. He was so obsessed. He was so consumed by it that I remember when he talked about it. I was just like, who thinks of that? Who thinks of the net? The changing of the net rotates the ball different, so you have to think to. Who goes that far?
Then to translate to a reinvent. It's hard to spend 20 years doing something. It's hard for the average person to retire. But to retire from the professional game that you've excelled in so much and have to reinvent yourself. Even Jalen Rose was speaking of it, which was hard. He would speak about owning. And, you know, we talk about Nipsey Hussle and generational wealth and all that. He spoke about Oprah is great. The name Oprah is awesome. But Harpo is where it's at. Because she owns that. And to win an Oscar and Dear Basketball and how that was eloquently put together, went detail when we started watching that and how he really saw the game. And he would break down, which we're going to be sorely missing that. And to see how he was coaching. Let's talk about the transition. Let's leave basketball now. Let's talk about the transition of, stay in basketball. Let's talk about the transition of his advocacy for women's sports. Because we just explained how Gigi brought him to love the game again. He just made a statement a couple of days ago about how they asked him after the WNBA and the CBA and the new collective bargaining agreement, which was awesome. Every human resources in the world should pay attention to that because what they did with that was exceptional. He said what women in the sport could play to that level. He said, man, Diana Taurasi, he started naming names, who is also called the White Mamba. He started naming names of women who could play in professional men athletics. You saw him at Oregon games. One of the players of Oregon he was very close with. You saw him with his daughter at UConn games, that's where she was going. She made it clear that UConn was where she wanted to go. Mm-hmm. You saw how he was teaching her. You saw how she saw the game. People did not like, I saw a comment saying that Gigi could have gone and done something else with her life. She could have knitted for all we know. So we're not losing her as a talent. But we are. Because what she would have been so amazing to see. And she would have made her own name outside her father. Because it was never about, to both of them, my last name's Bryant. He never made it about him. It was always about her. Let's talk about his advocacy for growing women, young girls, and the talent of, because he could have coached little boys. He coached girls. Let's talk about his advocacy for women's sports, athletics. Let's talk, because even Lisa Leslie and Rebecca Lobo saying one of the most prolific players to advocate us. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Gigi and her talent and how if we were robbed And were we robbed of her, of seeing her?
His advocacy for women's sports was amazing, and I think he saw the doubts that plagued the WNBA were kind of similar to the doubts people plagued with him. If you told him he couldn't, he did everything to make sure that he could. And I think it ran true with the WNBA, was to say, you think that they can't be as successful as the NBA as the men. You're completely wrong. And if I have to be the one to stand and champion it, I will. And I also think with him having daughters, like you said, I truly believe God did that on purpose. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that he understood his responsibility as a father of 4 girls, the importance of letting them grow up in a world where they can do whatever and be whoever they wanted to be, no matter what. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't. And I think because he understood his position, because he understood his status in the world, as a global icon, because that's who he is. I think because he understood it, he took the mantle of that to say, I am going to champion this. And as far as for Gigi, like I said, it's heartbreaking. It's always heartbreaking when someone passes tragically like that, but especially when it's a child. I watched highlights of Gianna. You watched Gianna. We would talk.
Mambacita.
We would talk about it. That nickname was starting to float around of Mambacita because.
And you couldn't forget, as you were talking about her. We can talk about Zaire. We can talk about Shaq's son Sharif. We can talk about Cayenne Anthony and Carmelo Anthony's son. We can talk about Bronny. But on the other end, someone else was coming.
Someone else was coming in. I always think about the Jimmy Kimmel interview,
yes.
Jimmy Kimmel Live, when he said that they were at a dinner and someone came up and said, "Oh, Kobe, you need to have sons. You need to have someone carry the name." And she kind of butt in and was like, "Nah, I got this. Like, I got that." And he cheered it, and you could see the pride in him with that. And she has the same. She had the same.
She looks and acts
tenacity,
exactly like
just
her
like him. And even that moment saying that is him. That's him all the way. And for whoever said that she could have done something else, we didn't lose. No, we did, because he didn't force her to want to love basketball the way he did. He's a very cultured individual. She could have done anything. They had the liberty. His eldest daughter did volleyball. They had the liberty to do whatever they wanted to do. She could have been a pianist, but it still applied. That same mentality still applied. But the fact that she took it on, just like you said in the beginning of the show, he stepped away from basketball. When he stepped away. And she is the one that made him come back to it. So, for whoever ignorant that said that, you didn't understand who Kobe Bryant was. You didn't get it. And, for players in the WNBA, former players at WNBA, they all said that we lost on a generational player. And she's only 13. But they knew this one was the one that was going to ultimately take it all the way for us. So for the Lobos, the Lisa Leslie, for all that they've tried to pioneer and do, she was the one that was going to make it that way. That pinnacle, I believe that she would have made it the highlight of the league. She would have been the one because of how social media is, because who her father is, the way it just aligned. I truly, truly, truly believe she would have been the one that made it blow up into what it's supposed to be. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to, but it's just tragic that we don't get to experience that. Women's boxing came to fold because of Layla Ali. But people
And
saw
her father had so much against her boxing.
Exactly.
He made comments in the past that people with boobs or something like that should not
box.
And and even though she knew what her father did for a living, and she still did that, and he in turn eventually came around.
Yes, and she pushed it to a level where it's watched, it's respectable. We have all these women, awesome fighters. That was her. That was what she was going to do. She was placed here to be that, and the fact that we don't get to see it in its fullness, is a tragedy all on its own.
When you watch the footage of her, the fadeaway, the step back she did on him, the picture that they have on social media with them face to face, and you can see the resemblance in that cover of Slam. Like I said, everybody, you're tuned in to Rolling with Ramos, episode 90. 10 more to 100, baby. This is a hard one. We remember the life and legacy of Kobe Bean Bryant as he rested easy and rest in peace. As I told you, I write notes in this thing every week for this show. As you can see, I'm always prepared for this show. This was my father in front of all his trophies. I did not write a single note for this show. This is off the top. This is sincere. This is from the heart. This is an open conversation. This is family. Please join us. Drop those comments down below. Let's talk about if we talk about basketball, Tristan, and let's talk about the Mamba mentality. Hashtag. Why did it take over so quickly after he retired? And two, Mamba mentality and how we can continue to keep the legacy alive. And Mamba mentality for everything it stood for and what Kobe was able to show us about life and how you should just tackle life. And let's be real. You spoke about him always having to prove something. And he always felt as though he needed to prove something and always had to be the best one. And when he didn't have to. Allen Iverson released a statement. And he spoke about how Kobe took him to dinner one time when they had a game. And they get to the hotel room. He drops him off. And Kobe asked him, what are you going to do? What are you about to do? And Allen Iverson said, go to the club. Kobe said, I'm going to the gym. That type of ordeal and the fact that he said in his own right, he came from another country. We forget Kobe spent years outside of the United States, fully out of our culture. He had to integrate himself into American culture with his father, Joe, being in Germany and overseas and playing overseas. This is a man that did not really grow up in America. And by the time he got here, his level of what he thought he was coming in to Americans, it was like, how dare you? But I grew up in Philly. I'm Lower Marion. And what he was doing there was outstanding. He said he had to prove that he had a right in this country. Speak to that. Speak to Mamba mentality. Speak to the growth of the legacy. Speak to how much people missed that in the moment in his career and how it was too late that he coined it in the process.
I think the reason why Mamba mentality catches the way it does is because it's not, you didn't have to be a supreme athlete. You don't have to be the greatest singer. You don't have to be the greatest rapper. You don't have to do any of these things. It's literally someone that gets up, puts on their clothes, gets in their car, gets on the train, whatever, and goes to a 9 to 5.
And takes on the day.
but your mentality of how you take on that day is going to be the difference. It's something that was relatable. It was something that everyone can touch. And I think he was so focused on making sure that he did it that way that he didn't have time to stop and explain why he was the way he was or why he thought the way he thought until the latter part of his career when he knew he was getting ready to be done. And so
Do you think people thought do you think he knew smart enough to know that people would listen to him as they became so nostalgic of his career and he was leaving?
Yeah, because America is a capitalistic society. We will always listen to champions. We'll always listen to winners. Always. That's just our makeup. You're quick to listen to a winner. So he did enough where he knew that anything he said, people will take to heart. Anything he said, people will take to gold. But the thing about it the thing that made it special was that the things that he said were things that were true and were things that everyday people can relate, everyday people can take it in, everyday people can be okay. The interview with Jamil Hill, I love that interview because I remember thinking to myself, man, if I had thought that way my whole life, a lot of things probably would have been different for me. And he said, she asked him, how does he feel about failure? And he said, failure is non-existent. And he didn't even say it in a way where it was like this profound statement. He said it in a way where it was just like, I can't even believe you asked me. It was like,
is that a word?
Is that a word? It was like, it was foreign to him. It was
and
like,
that interview came from the fact that she went against him on something.
Yes.
And he immediately got into her DMs.
Yes.
And the only show that he would come to was on the 6th or his and hers with him.
Yeah.
With her. That's crazy.
So it's just like his thought process was, you only fail if you didn't learn. If you couldn't take something from it to go back at it again, then you failed. He said, I can take a loss.
And I didn't bring the book. I bought the book.
He said I could take the loss and learn from it and go back at it again the next day. And then the next day. And then the next day. And then the next day. Until I perfect that flaw. So there's no such thing as failure. You only fail when you stop. That's it. And that resonated so much with me because you're going to go through failures. Everybody does. Everybody has a challenge. Everybody has tribulations that's going to take place. And there's going to be moments that you're going to fail. It's one thing that I think the younger generation, I hate that death highlights these things, but in a sense, you have to take it and understand that this younger generation has a complex that they cannot accept failure. These participation trophies, these participation ribbons, just being a part. No one gives them the opportunity to take a loss, take a L, chew on it, learn from it, and how you can grow. The younger generation doesn't know how to handle that part of them. I failed as many times as I succeeded. I probably failed more than I succeeded. But it's because of my failures is why I succeed. Because I got to learn from them. You have to. It's just part of life. And I think Kobe understood that. Again, he was someone that understood at a young age. And unlike Michael Jordan, because even Michael Jordan said a similar phrase like that. Unlike Michael Jordan, Kobe in the later part of his career was willing to give that knowledge and explain it, articulate it in his beautifully intellectual way that he knew how. Unlike Jordan. Jordan had that same thought, but kept it. So that's why this one touches a little different, because I think people, the last couple of years, were able to kind of grasp on Kobe a little more, where Jordan is still like this figure. He's not even like, it's not even like a human. It's like he's just this figure that's just out there as the GOAT. It's just, that's it. And for the longest time, that was Kobe Bryant until the later part of his career and now in his retirement the last few years, where people were able to, it was a tangible thing to grasp him.
Is it like the symmetry that we talk about when
you wanted to be like Mike. We sung the songs, but you actually think you could be like Mike, whereas Allen Iverson touched pop culture so much that you felt like you knew Allen Iverson. You felt like he was like you. You could walk down the street with him. What is Kobe Bryant's relevancy to pop culture? From the book, I mean, we can go from the Bush, the Sprite commercials, the Kobe and LeBron puppets. What is his touch on pop culture?
I think it's so much more. I think it's so much more than that. I think everybody had a role. I think Allen Iverson's role was for pop culture, to that kind of swagger.
That I'm gonna be me.
I think
regardless.
I will concede that for Allen Iverson. I think Allen Iverson embodied that. Kobe's mark is to. Kobe's mark on the world was to say, anything you want to do, you can do it, but you have to give it everything you have. You have to be completely sold out. It has to be 100%. You know, I was talking with my coworker yesterday. We have these two major projects that we got to finish within the next month. And yesterday and today, you know, we've been working and we're tired. And every time the moment we feel a little tired, we say Kobe Bryant. One person says Kobe Bryant. The next person says 100%. Because that was what he embodied. That even if he was tired, he was hurt, he was injured, it didn't matter.
They had pictures on him with ice bags
exactly.
from his neck down.
It didn't matter because he knew what he had to achieve.
At 41, Bill Russell, guys like Bill Russell and Jerry West, older in age, legends in the same mindset, in the same sense. Not to think of their death, but not to think of a future. But when they go, what they accomplished in longevity is more of life and age, and what they meant on the court and in life to a lot of people. Kobe is only 41. And what he did in so much short time. Because when we think of 41, we think of it very, very short. What is his legend? Because he is one. And in timeless, in such short time. And for him to speak on, I do everything young. And now we listen to that statement. 41, and everything that man's been able to accomplish. Wow. Speak of that legend and how much more we were robbed of the continuance. And you spoke about it already, but the continuance.
You know, I'm a big man of faith, and you know I truly...
big man of faith, and always appreciative of your levels of wisdom within it.
I lean on that. We talked about last night. I lean on that to understand things in this world. But this is one, I don't recall a time that I truly questioned why.
I've given you twice.
And right. And this one, I didn't ask, but I knew God heard me in my conscience because I just didn't understand. I just felt that there was so much more that had to be done from him. There was so much more that was supposed to be done. There was so much more from Gigi. I mean, it was just, I just felt it didn't make sense. And let me say this. I also mourn and pray for the lives of the other seven passengers and their families, and I pray for them as well. I don't want to...
Which we've done because Kobe's been such a polarizing name in it.
Yeah, I don't want them to be forgotten in this. One of them is a legendary baseball coach, you know, and so
to see the people he was rolling with.
Right. I don't want to minimize them at all. So please understand that I pray for them as well. With him is just I felt there was so much more, and you know, my dad even had to kind of snap me back into it. He said, "You never questioned God before. Don't do it now. You can't question the timing." His legacy, I think, because of the unfortunate tragedy, his legacy is something that we're maybe not immediately we're going to see really manifest in what it's supposed to be, but I think down the line, it could be through his daughters, it could be through one of the people he's touched that's in the NBA, it could be through LeBron. We don't know, But I think it's something that we'll see down the line manifest. We'll say, there it was. There or there they are. There are the fruits of his labor, the nuggets that he left. Tupac had one of the most profound statements in an interview he did years ago, where he said, I might not be the one to change the world, but I guarantee I will be the one that sparks the mind that changes the world. And I truly believe Kobe Bryant's legacy, though he made his mark, but I think the way that he wanted to truly make it, someone through this tragedy is going to change the perspective of the world because of him, because of how he thought. Reading his books, listening to the interviews, how he thought. Someone is going to take that and is going to do something amazing. And that's when we're really going to see it.
You talk about Ready to Die in Life After Death, Notorious B.I.G. Tupac and the way he lived his life. And how much music he put out, how much mind he put out, what we saw of them. True martyrs in their own sense, Biggie and Tupac, but both who understood how quickly their lives were happening and how quickly it's weird because it's not like they saw their demise, but they saw their demise. When we look at Kobe and how young he did things, and I think there's a report that came out to the degree, those reports of he said he did everything young. And when he started looking at life and his perspective of life and doing it all and premonitions that he could go quickly and thoughts that he could die young and to do everything in 41, how do we put that in perspective? Guys that understand the ideology of taking a hold of life and doing it, not waiting to do it, but now, because in the event, I don't want to leave nothing to chance.
I think as he got older, that perspective might have changed a little. I think he took on life that if it was attainable, he was going to attain it. And I think he attacked it that way. Not in a sense that he wanted to do everything young, not in a sense that he might have felt that his time was coming. I just felt like he wanted to attack life that way. That if it was attainable, I want to attain it. And I don't want to waste time trying to think of how. I just want to get it.
And then when you have children, it changes your whole perspective because he said they don't care about back-to-backs.
Exactly. Yeah, that stuff didn't matter. And I think his daughters and his wife, his family, I think that changed his mindset of how he thought about his life. Tracy McGrady said yesterday that he spoke this because he said years ago, he said that Kobe said he wanted to die young. He wanted to be immortalized in this one image. But that was at a young age before he had children, before, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It changes you. So I think in that aspect he wanted, with Tupac and Big, I think they felt like something was coming.
Yeah.
I think they knew something was going to happen. With Kobe, this was just a random tragedy. Like, for me, that's how I take it.
It came out of nowhere.
It just came out of nowhere. It wasn't.
Mean what?
You.
I'm still saying what, and it's over.
Right. Like, it still hasn't sunk in its totality. So that's what makes this one so heartbreaking and so just unbearable, because it wasn't anything we saw where it was like, okay, where I can put my finger on it. Yeah, something. I could put my finger on it and said, okay.
And this came from something that a lot of people said, we all know of his thoughts of getting in helicopters because he said, I miss so much with my children's life by sitting in LA traffic.
Right.
I miss so much of getting the game. I'm not sitting in this traffic. I'm going to do something about it.
That's why he did the helicopter.
And a lot of people said that he should have drove that way. But that's what he did every day. That was simplistic.
Yeah.
So you can't, something every day. Now, granted, I do agree that if someone knew the weather in LA wasn't attainable to fly in, someone should have made the decision that was in higher power. If LAPD is telling his copters to stay on the ground, the pilot didn't make a discretion. He's getting word from people from aviation and they're following him through this fog, and they're trying to help him through it. It's called emergency landing. It's called we not doing this today, Kobe. Find a way to get to this game. LAPD should have shut down the city of LA and said nobody's flying. Because the chance, this could have been prevented. The chance was given. LA. We lost Nipsey Hussle a year ago. Congratulations on his Grammy. We've watched Lauren London grieve. And she spoke years ago about how it's crazy she's an actress when she lives such a private life. And to have to, it's one thing to grieve. Specific, and I'm totally here for it. It's one thing, and because I understand, it's one thing to grieve, but have to grieve so publicly. We're not going to hear from Vanessa. We need to give her the time and the place and respect of her children. It's one thing to be a world and global icon. We've seen Kobe in China getting pulled more than he's getting pulled over here. Mm-hmm. But to the city of LA, people in droves out in Staples Center, like he was supposed to walk out of it. Immediately, LA went into a city of mourning. Did we lose 2 LA legends? Speak of the legend, speak of the city of LA, the place he built, Staples Center, for the Grammys to be there, and the shadow that's over it right now.
This is a tough question. I almost wish you didn't ask me this question because I feel like I'm gonna get heat for this question, for my answer. I respect Nipsey Hussle's life. I respect what he stood for.
Yes.
You know, I'm definitely a fan of
that
his
people
music.
waited till he was gone to understand.
I was definitely a fan of his music and all that, and for what he did in the community. There were things I didn't know. As I researched and stuff, and I read the things that he did, and he should be celebrated, appreciated as he is. I can't put him in this category. I can't put him in this comparison. Kobe Bryant is to LA what?
Magic?
I don't think there is a comparison, because
people came to the Staples Center, celebrity or not, to see Kobe.
It's not even just that. It's not even in
to
that.
talk to him.
It's not even in that aspect. He came in at 17.
Yes.
So there are grandparents, parents, and children that literally watched this figure, this kid.
From the Forum Center to the Staples Center.
They watched him as a kid, 17, 18, in being in an all-star game, shooting the air balls in this, game against Utah. Like, they watched him as a kid grow into a man, become a husband, become a father. Literally watched the maturation through all the struggles, all the hardships. Literally watched this boy become a man right before their eyes in their city. He didn't go. He didn't play anywhere else. He didn't,
Which is big.
It's him. 20 years of his life was him becoming a boy to a man in one city. It's the fabric of LA. Is Kobe Bryant. When you think of the Lakers, this generation more so thinks of Kobe Bryant. That's why Magic, people don't understand when Magic says Kobe Bryant is the greatest Laker ever. It's because there's no comparison. Kareem came from Milwaukee. He won in Milwaukee. He was an MVP in Milwaukee, then came to LA. Shaq was already an all-star in Orlando, then came to LA and became a champion and all that. Magic Johnson, yes, played in LA his whole career, but Magic Johnson went to college. He came in as a young grown man already. This was literally a boy at 17 years old that grew within this franchise, within this city. Within this city.
Yes.
His wife, they were high school sweethearts. They all grew in this city. It's a different feel with this one. If I was an LA native, I probably couldn't even do the show. If we were in LA, I probably couldn't even do the show today. Because I feel like if you were a native of LA as big of fans as we are of Kobe Bryant and the Lakers.
We're on the East Coast.
We're on the East Coast. You imagine if we were born and bred in that and watching this guy for 20 years be absolutely amazing and then watch his first couple years of retirement still be amazing and then we wake up Sunday and we hear this?
I would be out front of Staples Center expecting him to walk out and hurt.
I mean, literally, I shed a couple tears on Sunday because of how much of a fan I am. But I really believe I would be weeping on Sunday if you know what I'm saying. Like, so I all respect to Nipsey, but L.A. is this morn is different than Nipsey. Mm-hmm. It's a little different because this one touches all of Los Angeles. This touches all of it. It's not to minimize Nipsey, and I want people to understand because people are watching. If you're Nipsey fans, I'm a Nipsey fan too. So I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying this one is different. It just hits differently because it's like watching a superhero die. It literally felt like that, watching a superhero die, and you just couldn't understand.
Couldn't do nothing about it. And a superhero that I really believe what Lamar Odom said. I heard about the helicopter. He said, I heard about the helicopter crash. And even though I heard about it, I just knew Kobe could find a way to survive.
Right.
Because we've seen Kobe find a way. We've seen him never be defeated. And now he's defeated to a fault that is to a no return. We have to ask the harder questions, Tristan. Because we are journalists. And we have to go there. TMZ. Some people upset at TMZ. The footage they released. The news that they released prior to his family being found out. The reports about they was ready to throw Rick Fox whole in this. He was not there. It went from his whole family being in the plane. All his daughters. It went from just him in DG. It went from us not being only to identify the other 7 on there. It went to no reports on the weather and not knowing the factors. All is speculation. But I think in this society, because instead of us being able to be journalists and stick to just journalism, we also live in a society that can be journalists without journalists. The average camera can get so much. The average camera can get so much. We can go outside and watch a fight right now, and it could be between 2 celebrities, and we can get it first. Even when Nipsey died, the footage of Lauren running into the hospital, some of the things that we don't need to see. In a generation before us, when John F. Kennedy died, it was a breaking the newscast to show you this. But his family knew first. His family found out from TMZ. Now, on one end, you could say, this is what we are paid to do. We are paid to give you the news. If we find it, we see it, we give it. But then we can also say, what is the disheartening of getting news the way we get it? And it not transferring correctly. Let's also talk about, because we can talk about the legend of Kobe Bryant, which we're going to remember him out. But we also know a time that he made a mistake. And we saw Kobe in a state of failure, but learning from it. Became a better man, became a better husband because of it. The disheartening of bringing up that case, that trial, that rape trial, the case, which he still, within that, found a way to still perform. With all that was on him, he still was hitting game winners in Utah. What do we say to the man hasn't even been able to be buried, and we're talking about a tragedy here? You calling this man out of his name, you say you didn't do it. What can we speak for the media sense in all those 3 aspects of which that trial is a part of Kobe? We can't negate that, but that was a mistake. We can't talk about that right now. Come on. What can we talk about? How we get news, how we transfer news, how it has affected the mourning process of those of Kobe close to him. How has it affected the mourning process of us outside of that? How disheartening, but also the job of the media and things that have come out that have been anti.
Shout outs to Dominique Scott, who said everyone wants to be first to break the news, correct or incorrect. They can always
Thank
update,
you for your comment.
but once they got you with the breaking news, they got you, which is true, which is very true. Denzel Washington said in an interview, I don't think it was last year, maybe it could have been last year, a couple of years ago, where he said, media has a responsibility to bring the truth, and how is it worth being first rather than being truth? We're so quick to be first.
And we're still waiting on new reports.
Exactly. We're so quick to be first rather than getting truth, rather than getting whole truth. The news I kept hearing Sunday, where they were saying Rick Fox was on the helicopter. They were saying all the daughters were on the helicopter. It's just
one wrong thing after another wrong thing after.
And I couldn't imagine being his parents. I couldn't imagine his sisters and how they felt. I couldn't imagine Vanessa. What if one of the other girls wasn't around her? I couldn't imagine the horror and the emotional trauma throughout the entire day, hearing all this news that was incorrect. And then to ultimately get the correct news that was such a tragedy. I believe that media is currently, and I'm speaking as someone that loves media, I'm speaking as someone that produces media.
As a journalist, I had to turn off my social media. I had to get off of it. For someone that needs it to thrive, I needed to go away from it.
I truly believe media in general is the worst drug in America.
Yes.
Because what it does is that it desensitizes our humanity.
We talk about this all the time in working in news. We can watch a murder and it can suck. But we've reported on how many murders over the last year?
Yeah.
You become like, oh, it's another one. Damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
But what's the next stop on here?
Exactly. It's like, no, someone died. And, it was part of the reason why I got out of it. That it was a big part of it because I realized it took my humanity away. I couldn't feel anything.
I think that's what I like about what we do on this show.
Yeah, we give ourselves the room. We give ourselves the platform and the space to feel what we're feeling and express it. We're not worrying about being politically correct or not. This is how we feel about something, and this is how we're going to go for it.
And as journalists, I know you have to be, what they call it, you have to be biased. You can't be biased. You got to be outside of it. The real reason I love sports and I still have a passion for it because I remember being in front of a little girl in front of that TV and what it meant to me. And that's why I could speak about it so passionately as we do the show. Please continue.
I truly believe that we as media must take a moment and understand that there are families that have been changed forever. That it just won't be the same. Yes, we mourn at the loss of the figure that is Kobe Bryant, of the basketball player, of the man, but Vanessa mourns a husband. Vanessa mourns a daughter.
So we can wait on the news.
Yes. Kobe's parents mourn the loss of a son, their only boy. His sisters mourn the loss of their brother. This is a human being They mourn the parents mourn the loss of a grandchild. The sisters mourn the loss of a niece. This is the harsh reality of life can go. It doesn't have a criteria.
Yes.
You don't, there's no scale. Were you good enough? Were you bad enough? Were you more important? Were you less important? Death doesn't have any kind of scale to go by. If it's your time, it's your time. And no matter what, it's the one inevitable in life is that you're going to go.
It's crazy you say that, because what I've learned from mourning my father's death is you literally had that time when you were born. And you hate to say you got that line in between until it's done, but that's your life. When you look at the scale of life, what I've learned from it, we don't have time to do the things that we do. Yes, we're going to have conflict in life. Yeah, we're going to be indifferent with people. Yes, we're going to have this scope. But we don't have time to do all this. You have time to make the best of it, to love the ones you love and the people that love you. Have a good time wherever you are. I was out with old classmates Saturday. Shout out to St. Gabriel's and St. Gabriel's a charter school now. Shout out to St. Gabriel's in Grand Circle, Northwest DC. And it was so much of a beautiful time and nostalgic to go from little kids, third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, to be grown adults with issues and problems and life things. And we've changed so much to have such a great get together. And that was the news of the next day. The dichotomy of life can change like that. And if anything of what I want to be in this world, and what death makes you do when you grieve and you go through it, you think of your own mortality. And if I leave, what will people say about me and what will people think about me? Oh, hell, I want you to say Mikkel was a good person. Oh, hell, I want you to say that Mikkel did the best she could to do right by people, to do good in this world and be good of it and to make good of it. That's what you can say about Kobe. What can we say if we move past media and what media does? The perceptions of bringing up his past in a dirty definition of it. Because we can talk about the rape trial. We know that that's there. We know that that's there, America. We know that that happened. But to do that now and make that a part of that man's legacy and to say, well, because there's some people that still said in his living, how can you guys immortalize Kobe Bryant and what he's done but yet he did this to this female and this woman? He is a rapist. Once a rapist, always a rapist. But in a sense, those who know Kobe and those who loved him and those who really understand basketball, you dissected that from his legacy because that had nothing to do with what he did on the court and what happened. Some people, even in the Oscars, they complained about that. There's people to this day that's nothing against animals or anything like that. There's people to this day that still hate Michael Vick, who's done his time for that. There's people that Ray Rice and what he lost completely because of public opinion and completely of a man that could not have a second chance at all. What we do in America as far as people who make mistakes, this is a society that wants you to be honest about your life, wants to be honest about your mistakes, wants you to be honest about mental health, preaching it. But when it's time to be open and honest and get there, they don't want to hear it. How did you feel about that? Because you hear how I felt about it. How do you feel about that?
You know, I sympathize with those that have gone through.
And that's nothing against those that have been through tragedy. No. And I always say there's nothing against those that have been through any type of abuse, even with Ray Rice. I also said that we, when things happen as women, we have a responsibility as well. But not all of that is in place. So we're teeter-tottering total lines here.
Yep.
But please.
I sympathize with it, but I also understood where you came from in the aspect because he just died, and just give a moment to let people grieve and let people celebrate him the way they want to. However you feel is however you feel, and you're entitled to it.
Yes.
But give people the chance to celebrate him the way they want to celebrate him. And it's not to disparage it. It's not to demean it. It's not to make it seem as if it never happened. I understand it. Nobody was there with him. We don't know the truth and what was truth and what was lie. You know, that's between them and the man upstairs. But in this moment, in this particular time, we're paying homage to a man that is a great father, a great husband, a great basketball player, a great philanthropist. We're paying homage to that. We're paying homage to that. And you have to allow people to do that. And I think, again, everybody wants to be the hot topic. Everybody wants to have something that's going to click, that thousands of people are going to watch and see and like or dislike and retweet and repost. And everybody's so quick to do it. And it's just like, where is your humanity? Where is your humanity? In the Bible, Mark 8, it says, what profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? And that reigns to me. It also says, what would a man give for his own soul? And I feel like we're in a time where society would rather be relevant in social media than have the humanity to leave things alone. And I think for me personally, I think him passing made me put a lot of things in perspective of how I think, of how I function day to day. Because it's rough. I mean, there were people that were saying they had videos of the helicopter crashing. I didn't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that
People
kind of
went
trauma.
to the site to look at the wreckage.
Yes.
And I don't know why we get so caught up in wanting to see tragedy. I don't know if people needed to believe it.
It was the same thing with Nipsey. Like
They had to put
people
out a
recorded him-
misdemeanor.
Yeah, people recorded him on the ground. Nipsey on the ground, shot up.
They
Like,
had to make a misdemeanor saying, if you come here, we will arrest you.
it just, the fact that we've gotten to this place as society is truly disheartening. Is truly frightening. Because somewhere we lost a sense of compassion. We lost our sense of
Truth, because
Yes.
there's a lot of fakers on here.
and it's this social media has allowed, I'm not going to say it's hidden people. I think it's more so revealed the wickedness of the world. And we need more people that are bright. We need more people that can be light to show out more, because we highlight so much evil and wickedness. And we have to be responsible and put out the positive and put out the brightness. Everyone that said it, life is too short. It's too fragile. Anything that's negative, you got to let it go. If you have an art with someone, let it go. Let it go. Even if you don't speak, I always say you can forgive someone and not have to. You don't have to be friends with the person. You don't have to speak to the person. But just let that part go, because in this world, it's so fragile. And in an instant, it's all for naught. And what did you do in that moment? What did you do in that time frame that you had that made a positive impact on someone? It just takes one person. It doesn't have to be the world. But what did you impact one person positively in your life? Do you say that you imprinted someone in a positive way that that if you leave here, you know that you left it better than when you came. Can you say it? Can you say that definitively? And if you can't, then whatever it is that's holding you back from being that person, from doing the best that you can, from being the best that you can be, let it go and do it. Because too many times we highlight being first in listening to tragedy. We highlight the carnage of society and don't highlight the goodness. There's more tweets and trolls than encouragement and cheers for the good things that happen. And again,
hiding behind computers and keyboard thugs, and
this has truly made me think different. And I have to take responsibility in my own life to make sure that I spread and push light even more than I've done, because we need it.
You speak to me all the time about being by myself, and one of the hardest things since my father has passed away is looking for comfort anywhere. Me and my father's relationship, when you lose somebody, the things that I didn't care about because of how much he was a staple and how much he was such my emotional rock. And he used to say, you can cry to me. Tell me what's up. Are you done crying? Now what's wrong? And now that he's gone, sometimes I feel like I have lost that. I'm looking for that. But what I've done with social media is I don't post unless it's about the show. I don't post unless it's true. Because in my heart, I'm still finding a way to be happy. I am, you see the outside of Ramos, but Mikkel is a wreck on the inside. And what I've learned in my time, because I used to post everything, want everybody to see everything, and when I feel it, I do it. People become this person on the internet that they're not in person. People have opinions on other people's lives that they don't know, and they don't know the whole story. You shouldn't be with him. Blah, blah, blah. Some said, why did it take a celebrity for us to be able to understand life and death? And no disrespect, people die every day, B. I've heard that comment.
Right.
But when you see it in a grander scale, it makes you pay attention to the people that die every day, B. And what you're doing every day. I live in Baltimore. Oh, hell that goes through here. Let's take it back to basketball. There is a game that was supposed to be tonight that will not be. Mm-hmm. The emotion that would have been in the Staples Center with the Clippers and the Lakers. LeBron's crying, getting off planes. He finally released a statement today. Mm-hmm. We've seen Dwayne Wade upset. Mm-hmm. We've seen Iverson upset. Carmelo could barely get through an interview. Doc Rivers, Trae Young, who was Gigi's favorite player, upset, wearing the number 8, getting shot clock violations of 24, holding the ball for 8 seconds, 8 moments of silence. We've seen all of that. I haven't seen this level of grieving in the NBA, because a lot of people said, why don't they just cancel everything? But I haven't seen this level of grieving in the NBA since we saw it with Isaiah Thomas. And a lot of people said, why did he play? But you could tell he was not there. He just lost his sister. And then we can go into the parameters of what Boston did to him and what he gave, even through tragedy. We haven't seen it since then. We saw Shaq did not do a show because he lost, what was his it was his
sister.
He was his sister. To grieve in the public eye and as a professional of a friend. The NBA canceling games today. That game tonight. Having to still play and having to have that on you. Bradley Beal crying. How was it important to see athletes be human? And how hard was it to also watch them go through that? And did the NBA make the right decision? Even Carmelo said the type of person that he was, he would have wanted me to play.
I think all the athletes know that Kobe would want them to play. I think they all know that. I think we as fans, if you're a fan of Kobe Bryant, you know his makeup. It was incredible. It was incredible to watch the players on Sunday.
On Sunday.
On Sunday.
Out of all days.
It was incredible. It was so important for the games to go on. I know people wanted to cancel, but it was not even just the players, the broadcasters, everyone.
Mike Breen.
It was
that was
so
hard to listen to him.
It was so incredible because it made society say, wow, they're human. We talk about it. If someone's sick and, whatever, they're not feeling right and they don't play, we're like, oh, come on, you got to do it. You're this, this, and this. You got to push through it. You got to work through it. They're human.
Michael Jordan got the flu.
They're human. But see, feats like that is what makes people feel the way they feel about these guys. Isaiah Thomas, Zeke, as we all love him, broken ankle going out there. I mean, we all talk about these guys.
Willis Reed coming through the tunnel.
We see these amazing feats mentally. Kobe Bryant with the Achilles, shooting the free throws. We see these things, so we look at them as superhuman. We do. But something like this, I can't fathom that. I can't imagine that. But I respect them. And I truly believe, at first, because we talked about it, we wanted to make sure we do the show early because we're gonna be in front of the TV to watch this. When I saw that they canceled, my initial thought was, man, you gotta let them guys play, man, because Kobe would have wanted them to play. And then I chewed on it. And I said, nah, they can't handle that. The fans can't handle that today.
It's fresh.
It's too fresh. Couldn't handle that. There wouldn't be enough security to deal. Those guys, people forget that 8 and 24 are on the court. This is a Laker home game that was supposed to take place, which means 8 and 24 would have been on the hardwood.
They illuminated it in the rafters during the grand.
There's no way that you could see LeBron and those guys run up and down the court seeing these numbers and can focus enough to play a respectable game of basketball. There's no
even
way.
For him at all.
There's no way. Even if it's for him, just the emotion would be too overwhelming. It's still going to be. Whenever they have the home game, it's going to be overwhelming. But for it to be today, it would have been too much. I respect the NBA for doing this. I am on the bandwagon with Chris Broussard. I do believe. I won't judge it if they don't. But I do believe that they should retire both numbers throughout the NBA. I am
Nobody should ever wear number 8 and 24. I'm with that.
I've heard there's been a couple players already that wore 24. They've just asked to change their number. Mark Cuban's already come out and said no one on his franchise, the Dallas Mavericks, will ever wear 24. I do believe that this is a moment where you do something like that and it's understood. I'm also glad we had the show on Tuesday because it allowed me to really put things in perspective. This is the most tragic event to happen in sports ever.
Besides a scandal or
besides
everybody's
the
talking
scandal,
about Aaron Hernandez in this documentary.
No.
It has nothing to do with that.
Not OJ, not Aaron Hernandez, none of that. This is the most tragic event to ever happen in sports.
The impactfulness of this is
because it was so random, it was so raw. Because of his age, because he's an all-time great. This is the most tragic. There's nothing that's ever happened in sports. Because anywhere else that you look for something to match it, you can kind of logically have an understanding. Somebody said, well, what about Pat Tillman when he died in war? Well, that was a risk. It's not to diminish it, but the risk was he went to war. It was a chance that could happen because that was the situation.
This was not a choice.
This was different. This was literally a random tragedy that no one could ever predict or see coming. This is the worst thing that ever happened in sports as far as a tragedy. This is it.
And it has stalled it because we have so much to talk about right now.
It's Super Bowl.
The Pro Bowl was preempted.
Yeah.
They weren't even talking about the Pro Bowl. They was asking them about Kobe.
Yeah.
The Pro Bowl was preempted. The Grammys as a whole, nobody cared about music.
No.
The Super Bowl is this weekend. I have not touched football at all.
At all.
Eli Manning retiring. Who the hell cares? We can. I was going to talk about Gino Auriemma getting tongue tied, and the rivalry between Tennessee and UConn is not the same anymore. And he said it's not the same anymore because of Pat. And the fact that even though I didn't want to play, I didn't want to be, she didn't want to see me and I didn't want to see her. But to look at her across that line and compete against her, I missed that. To watch that grown man cry like that for that woman who's gone. To speak, and how much of an advocacy, we talk about Kobe and the WNBA athletics.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much to talk about, period, in sports. Serena lost. One of the greatest. We're still looking for that.
Coco Gauff beat Naomi.
And we're looking at their rivalry and what it will be for years, and they're transcending up in the ranks and the legacy that Serena and her sister and Venus gave them. Is Tom Brady coming back? Where is he going to go? Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, the black quarterback. There is so much to talk about in sports this year. Who the hell wants to talk about it? I don't. But I also don't want to hear about this.
Yeah. I literally listened to First Take. I listened to Undisputed all today on the way here because I couldn't watch it yesterday. I couldn't turn on ESPN this
I had
morning.
to turn everything
I
off.
just couldn't. I just had to cut away. So and again, I told a lot of people, I know you had people that called. Shout out to those that called Mikkel. Shout out to those that called me.
Thank you.
Because you guys understood how we are as fans with Kobe. I told people, I said, listen, I'm going to talk about this in depth in this show. And I said, when this show is over, I'm not going to talk about it in depth again. I can't do it.
I'm tearing up here.
Yeah, like I can't. And I've never felt this way about a celebrity / athlete. I've never. But this one it just rubs wrong, and I just can't. If you need to hear our opinion, you have to watch this, because we just can't.
Next week we will not talk about
Kobe. Do not
Kobe.
ask us to do this.
We will move on.
We can't do it. This is
not to say that we won't celebrate his life and we won't promote the show and tell you to listen, and because I'm sure we want us to hear. You want to hear us, but this is it from me.
Yeah, we can't talk about this in this capacity. And another thing I want to say, and then I know you'll close out soon, and I'll say one thing after that just to kind of close it out. Is please, y'all, give people their flowers when they're here. Mikkel and I, for years, have been, even before we got partnered up on the show.
Our friendship came from
this.
From what we knew of Kobe before everybody else.
And us defending him and defending his ranking. I was so irritated because I remember when people were saying, "Oh, he's like top 12. Oh, he's like top 10, top 7."
Only one next to the GOAT.
And
now
all of a sudden, there's just this flood of people are saying, "Yeah, he's top 2."
Now you believe it.
I'm just like, where was this energy when he was here? Now in depth, now you want to give him his credit. Now you want to say he was the only person that could measure to Michael Jordan. Even after Michael Jordan said it himself, you still couldn't grasp that concept. Give people their flowers while they're here.
The way we remember Kobe Bryant. Yes, I did it. Yes, I did it. There's the magazine, Time Magazine. The picture that's floating of Time Magazine. And Kobe bowing out under the spotlight. Because he always had a spotlight on him. They try to say, I don't know if this is right, because again, this is social media.
Right.
When the plane went down, there was a beautiful sky. So we all know where he went and this and that. That Time Magazine picture of Kobe walking into the spotlight with his 24 jersey on. The memories. The game winners. The Kobe to Shaq. I remember watching that Blazers game. Down against the Suns, you're down 3-1. The second shot against Nash. Everybody's saying that Nash deserved that MVP over Kobe that year. Okay. The cynicalness of his statements that were truthful. This is the first one without Shaq. I remember this. And the confetti flying, he's holding the ball like this. His little girl's running up to him in confetti in the purple and gold. The player's spotlight when he sat next to Shaq. When he jumped on him after after the championship. His respect for Phil Jackson. Which, that's somebody I really want to... We know how Phil is. Mm-hmm. But that's what I hear from him. His respect for the legends that came before him. The ball being put in his face by, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He did not flinch. You remember this?
Matt Barnes.
Matt Barnes. He did not flinch. The fights in New York. Walking into Madison Square Garden, 61. And Spike Lee, shut the hell up because you caused it. You would have left me alone. I might have just had 30. But you did this, and I had to show you. Don't mess with me. 81 points. 100-81. We're waiting for it still. Mm-hmm. And will it ever happen? If it doesn't, that's fine. Everybody can pass every accolade and thing that he had. One of my greatest things I ever did was put a mic to his face. Mm-hmm. I will never forget walking in that locker room, and I told you everybody's trying to get positioned. I squatted to get that interview. He looked right at me. He parted like a Red Sea. Everybody was waiting for him, and afterwards I said to him, Kobe, I read in a magazine that people think, it's crazy that people think that you pump your own gas. He said, I know, people would think I'm not human, right? He smiled at me. We chuckled. He walked on the elevator. I always wanted to be a sports journalist. And I didn't need that in that moment, but in that moment, he validated my prowess and what I wanted to do. Both of my 24s, my father and him, can rest easy. We cannot do this way. We cannot do it tragically to end this show. Missing 3,000 shots and saying, it takes a lot of guts to miss a lot of them, but I had good enough guts to take the last ones, and I'm going to take the heat for that, but I made a lot of hell of them. One thing we say about LeBron is, take the shot. Do you. There was a comment that Snoop Dogg put under his comments. It's on you now. We got you back. Take the shot. You talk about being the GOAT and that fire that I don't give a hoot, that tenacity, that venom, that venomous. The lessons, the pictures, the Bush, the Sprite commercials, the shoes, the jerseys. to end this right. Thank you, Kobe. How do we remember Kobe Bryant?
As a champion, as
I bought this in New York in Times Square. This is the only thing I took from Times Square my first time in Times Square.
a champion, the fiercest competitor,
Yes.
An assassin, a savant, an excellent father, a great husband, a great teacher, a great leader, and just greatness. If you had to personify it, it's Kobe Bryant. And and this is my last thought on this is
Yeah, because we said that we would do this show as long as we could.
right.
And we had so much to cover. Thank you for hanging in there with me.
My last thought on it was yesterday. You know how Facebook does little Facebook memories and all this stuff. And yesterday, just scrolling through my memories because I always try to see if there's something that I might have said or what have you that would relate to today. Not today, but just in general. And I saw a quote that came through, and it was so fitting because I believe it embodied Kobe Bryant. And again, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that quote came back for a reason. And the quote that I wrote years ago, it said it was back in 2013. And it says, "I don't achieve excellence. I strive for it. For excellence is a never-ending journey that I will always pursue until the day that I die." And I truly believe that now in the hour that Kobe Bryant is no longer with us, I believe that he achieved excellence in this short life, but so much that was done. He exemplifies to push. He exemplifies to strive. He exemplifies to the sacrifices to be great. I truly pray for the families
Yes, we do.
of all nine. I pray for Kobe's spirit, for Gigi's. I pray for Vanessa. I pray for Natalia. I pray for Capri. I just, for Capri to not have a single memory is truly, truly heartbreaking.
In the world to know her father and she doesn't.
There's so many levels, there's so many layers to it. I truly pray for everyone that was affected by this tragedy. And I just pray that his death will bring life into new thoughts, into new ideas, into new visions, into new determination, into new perspective. And that we can, through his death, unfortunately, we can find light, we can find solace, and move forward.
Which would also mean that let us, as we pray for them, we take the time to pray for ourselves, evaluate ourselves. I was talking to you about something detrimental yesterday. Not minuscule, but it's minuscule. I talk about my father and losing him all the time and trying to find my purpose and way in this world again. Let us evaluate ourselves and let us look at ourselves. Let us be truthful with ourselves. And no, it didn't take a celebrity to do it. It took life to do it and what everybody on this earth is going to do in it. Let us be kind to each other. Let us be kind to ourselves. Let us try. Let us just try. This was an emotional episode. We thank you all for tuning in with us, for staying with us. We hope that you share. We hope that you enjoyed. Please talk to us. Drop comments. Talk to us on the page. Let us move on. Tristan. Next week, people. episode 91.
That's right.
And we will be 9 episodes away from 100. We thank you as always for tuning in with us. Not a single note tonight, Tristan. Just you and me. Just 2 friends.
Always love Mikhail.
Just 2 friends on the couch, chilling and talking.
That's right.
We will see you next week. And I'm going to say it like I say it every week. I don't care if it does not rhyme. It is still mine. I am Mikhail, like Kevin McHale, Kobe. With all our hearts. Rest easy, King.
Rest easy, Mamba.
Mamba out.
Mamba out.
Peace.